Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, publisher of Aspire Magazine and the best-selling publisher at InspiredLivingPublishing.com. And if you've been listening to my show for a while, you know I am passionate about bringing you topics that will support you as a woman in living your best lives. And of course, our families, our children are a part of that. And I believe I can speak for every mom and grandmom, I'm a grandmom now, when I say we want to raise healthy children, right? And healthy children emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Today, Maureen Healy, an award-winning author, educator, and leader in the field of children's emotional health, joins me. She writes a popular blog for Psychology Today, which has reached millions of parents and other caring adults. Tal Ben-Shahar, New York Times bestselling author and former Harvard lecturer, praised Maureen's new book, saying, "The emotionally healthy child provides practical advice that is both accessible and potentially transformative for the child, the parent, and the relationship." I am so glad you're here to join us to gain a fresh perspective and real-life tools about raising emotionally healthy children. Welcome, Maureen.
Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome. And I want to share with everyone, right before we went on the air, I shared with Maureen that her first book, Growing Happy Kids, which won the Nautilus and Reader's Favorite Book Awards in 2014, I shared with her, I go, oh my God, I've given that book out in the gift baskets to friends children that were having babies. And I'm like, what a beautiful book to give, because isn't that our goal, to grow happy children? So I'm excited to have you here today.
I'm happy to be here.
So I got to tell you, reading your bio, your webpage, I'm like, this woman has done so much. You have such a unique background, from teaching in the Himalayas and the Dalai Lama to, writing for Psychology Today back when you didn't even know what a blog was.
So, that's funny, right?
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, oh, I remember those days. So let's talk about that, because I believe that your unique background is what makes you and your work really stand out. So bring us back to that time.
Oh, well, what you're mentioning is in 2009, Psychology Today called me and said, would you blog for us? And I said, absolutely. And then I hung up the phone and called my sister and said, well, what is a blog? I had a feeling that it was a really good thing to do, but that was sort of the start of when things got really big online.
And what about the rest of your background? Take us back to how you started on this path and all the education and everything that you have. And I want to talk about that, because it gives so much more depth to the work you're doing in the world, because you do have a very unique background.
Right, thanks. Me, like everyone else on the planet, wants to be happy. So, we do certain things and we anticipate that they will bring us joy. And sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But I guess from my perspective, I studied Western psychology and just sort of always wanted to know, how does the mind work? Why do we make the choices that we make? And, I found it helpful, but I didn't find it giving me personally really big answers. So then I went back to, I was invited to India because I was studying Buddhism at the time. And I taught Tibetan refugee children in India and studied with the Dalai Lama. And I've always had a perspective that was more Eastern, like that was the lens I viewed the life through. So that really helped make everything make sense for me. And what I love about Eastern psychology is they're very clear. They're like, do X and you'll feel healthy and happier. Do Y and you will not. So I wanted that kind of clarity in my life. And that was really helpful for me personally, and it was helpful for the children I work with. I don't necessarily teach or counsel from a spiritual perspective, meaning I don't, you can be from anywhere. I work with people from all walks of life, from all belief systems. And I did start my career. This might be interesting. I started working with CEOs, and I found out that sometimes, just sometimes, they act like children. So I actually went back to school and studied child development and then re-entered the workforce working with children. So I have a career where I started in business and then I went into, I guess, what I would call more of the helping field. And, I was in sort of a coaching CEOs, role when I started with CEOs. But I always, when I found the school and I started working with children and writing, it was just sort of everything clicked and I fell in love with my work.
I can tell you I've enjoyed your website and just hearing you on shows. You're just passionate. So let's talk about your work with parents and their children, because it's been global. So do you find, I'm really curious, that children are more similar or different globally, or are children just children?
I think children are just children. I think, different cultures have different challenges and sort of strengths. So that's unique, but, kids are kids everywhere. And, I mean, that's sort of the piece, we're all, you take away all of our differences and we're all human. We're at the core, I'm the same as you, you're the same as me. And we all want to feel healthy and happier, but it's just how we do it that we're sometimes not sure of.
So that insight must have led to even more deeper work on the topic with kids, because once you realize, really, aside from the cultural differences, that emotionally they all have the same needs.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, absolutely. We all want to be seen and celebrated and connected and unconditionally loved, which conceptually sounds easy, but in practice is harder. So, yes, for sure.
So in your book, your newest book, The Emotionally Healthy Child, one of the things you talk about is use the word wholeness versus happiness. So let's talk about that. What do you mean about raising a whole child?
Well, the idea from an emotional perspective, so, oftentimes we all want to feel good and we just run away from scary or challenging emotions, but that's not wholeness. Wholeness is being able to face any emotion as it arises, whether it's jealousy or a child feeling left out or a child feeling frustrated or an adult feeling angry, whatever our emotions are, and learning how to constructively express them is important. So whether they're easy emotions or harder emotions, more challenging. But wholeness is facing all of your emotions. So from a child's perspective, it's not the kid your son comes home and you say, "Oh, did you have a good day?" He goes, "Yeah, it was fine," and he smiles. But in reality, he was sad, he was teased, he was grumpy, he's just hiding his feelings and not expressing them constructively. So the healthy child is learning to say, "Hey, today was kind of a bummer today," and like being okay with his emotions, even though they weren't as pleasant as maybe other days. So the whole child is learning how to feel everything, let the emotion come and go through him or her, and then express it constructively and move on and think or do something differently to feel better.
So it's less reactive, teaching them that it's normal to have the feelings so that they're not triggered into a reaction. It's like learning that it's okay to feel it, but giving them tools to...
Yeah, emotional health is about learning how to be with uncomfortable emotions on one level, but the idea of wholeness is all emotions are good. There's no bad emotions. In our culture in Western world, in the U.S., we think, we want to feel A, B, and C. Oh, we don't want to feel that. Oh, we don't want to feel this, But wholeness is feeling all of the emotions and being okay with that.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, even I think generational and cultural, depending how you were raised, it's like, are you showing anger?
Right.
Or you have no right to be sad. Those
Right.
little statements to a child, I know exactly what you mean. In the Western culture, we have that tendency to shut down anything that makes others uncomfortable.
Right. But the thing is about uncomfortable emotions or challenging emotions is when you're with them, they dissipate or they can move on. You can get the help you need to let them out constructively. But the point is that when you're with someone who's honest and open, that's meaningful. That's authentic. So when you're with a friend and you can say, you know what, I had a flat tire the other day, they go, oh my goodness, you're kidding. It's not to have a pity party. It's just so that you're having an authentic, meaningful relationship versus something very superficial.
And I think that's what is missing in so many relationships. And now it's all coming back around because, you know, authenticity, it's the big word right now, but I think it's the big word right now. It is for me too, is because we yearn for it, right? We're yearning for intimate, authentic connection instead of that. So I think that's why that word is being seen everywhere for the last few years. And,
right.
And do you come across or work with the emotionally sensitive? Some people call them empaths. The ones that are just really sensitive, they just can pick up on other people's emotions. Everyone uses different words to describe them. Do you notice a difference between the two and how they process? Because I believe there are children that are more emotionally sensitive or aware, whatever the word is. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't even know if you know, I run a website called Highly Sensitive Kids, so I'm very much ingrained into high sensitivity.
No, how did I not know this? I'm writing this down. Highly sensitive kids. Oh, my God. I'm so, come on, I'm writing this down because I'm going to send my daughter. I have a 7-year-old granddaughter who fits in there. And she's amazing. But she can walk by someone and say, why is he so sad? And I'm looking like, okay. But she can just feel, she just feels very deeply. That's how she was born to process. How does what you teach in your current book also apply to the children that are on that highly sensitive range?
Yeah, I mean, my second book I wrote about indigo kids, and you know, who are highly sensitive but strong-willed or fierce. Those are the kids that say, I will not go to school today, or this is unfair. So, you know, kids that have those big emotions and quick reactions tend to be highly emotionally sensitive. But this book that I wrote, The Emotionally Healthy Child, is good for all children, but especially good for sensitive children because, like you just said, they have big feelings and they let them out quickly, and they can be very empathetic, like you mentioned. But the issue with sensitive children is they tend to be, not all the time, but they tend to be very right-brained or very impulsive. So we have to help them get their left brain or their logic online as well, because healthy emotional decisions are made when you use both sides of your brain. Yes. So that's sort of the challenge and the opportunity for emotionally sensitive children. They may not always get straight A's in math, and that's okay too, and they might. But learning how to use both sides of their brain for example, you know, it's great to be an amazing painter and artist, but you also need to do your checkbook. You know what I mean? So the skills that we want to build for them are sort of life skills so they can be self-reliant and contribute to the world, their unique gifts. So I am familiar with sensitive kids very much, and I don't know if I answered your question, but you let me know.
Yes, you did, and I'm going to give that web URL, highlysensitivekids.com, along with your main URL, growinghappykids.com. And thank you for going down that side street with me for a moment.
Sure, that's what life is about.
Oh, yeah, following the breadcrumbs. So we're going to jump to our break, and when we come back, I want to talk about mindfulness, right, because it's such a buzzword in the parenting and education world right now. So love to get your thoughts on it. I'll be back in a moment with Maureen Healy of growinghappykids.com.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ladies, your story has the power to transform lives. 4-time best-selling boutique publishing company, Inspired Living Publishing, is dedicated to sharing women's stories of hope, love, and transformation with the intention to inspire and empower their readers to believe in the power of possibility. Share your story in an upcoming print or Kindle project. Visit inspiredlivingpublishing.com today. Are you ready to experience the unshakable love and unleashed passion you really want? Great news! Discover what thousands of people are doing to transform their relationships in ways they never thought possible. And your partner does not need to participate in the process to enjoy the results you want in your relationship. Relationship expert and Aspire magazine columnist Stacey Martino and her husband Paul are the founders of relationshipdevelopment.org and Relationship U. They have successfully empowered thousands of clients with tools and strategies that really work to transform their relationship. Any relationship. And your partner does not even need to participate for their proven system to work for you. Transforming your relationship is possible, and it begins with you. Take the first step and visit relationshipdevelopment.org today.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Maureen Healy, the author of her newest book, anyway, The Emotionally Healthy Child. So, mindfulness, we touched base on it right before we went to break. So right now we're hearing a lot about it. I know in my life it's really helped, and I'm new on the path of meditation, being mindful, living in a tidy cottage right now, actually, and being very mindful of everything that I brought into it while we build our right-sized home. So talk about it in the parenting and education world, what you're seeing happening.
Yeah, I have a whole chapter on mindfulness in my book, The Emotionally Healthy Child, and I guess I would explain, it is a buzzword, but I would explain it as the idea of just paying attention. So learning how to pay attention without judgment. And the reason why it's so important for children and really adults as well, but certainly children, regarding their emotions, is that if you don't learn how to pay attention when your feelings are small, they're much harder to handle or effectively express, constructively express when they're bigger. So like when you have irritation or annoyance, you can deal with that. But if you have epic-sized anger, that's a lot harder if you're, 6 years old to handle. So becoming more mindful of how you feel in your body when you're starting to get triggered, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, whether it's another emotion, you can catch that and send it in a constructive direction before you make a not-so-smart choice. So a smart choice I would say, is a smart choice is good for you and good for others. So say a child was in the classroom really, 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 really angry, and he threw a notebook across the classroom. Well, it's good for him. He got some anger release, but certainly not good for the kid that got hit in the head with the notebook. So the point is you want to help him make a smarter choice. So what's a smarter choice with your anger? You can go to the bathroom. You can take a deep breath. You can talk to the teacher. You can, a whole bunch of different things you can do so that you can make a choice that's good for you and good for someone else. So mindfulness, or what I would say is paying attention without judgment and creating some self-awareness, is really the first step, because we all know that we have patterns. right? The kid who gets angry on the playground that pushes someone. Every day when he gets angry with so-and-so kid, he pushes them. To interrupt that pattern, you have to help them create self-awareness so they can do something differently.
I love it. And it's really being more conscious. And we're teaching our children to be more conscious. It reminds me of what my daughter's doing. McKenna doesn't have outbursts or any of that. She just has a deep sense of empathy and noticing right and wrong, like a child rips something out of her hands. Now, to some kids, right, and I'll use this as an example, and I'd love your input. For some kids, they'd just be like, so over it, good, take the toy out of my hands, I don't care. But she was so deeply hurt because this is someone she loved that tears came to her eyes, and she goes, why would she do that to someone? I don't understand. You don't do such things to people you love. That's how deep she feels, where others may feel. So Nikki just helps her sit with the feelings and emotions and says, well, let's talk about how you feel and how it would feel if you did that to someone. So she always gives her the flip to both. When they're processing that way at such a young age, what's a tip or strategy you would give to help someone process someone that feels that deeply? Do you let them sit with the emotion? Do you talk it out?
I wouldn't as much, but I'm much more practical. I would say, like, listen, what you do is your responsibility. What someone else does is their responsibility. And if someone's not being nice to you, that has nothing to do with you. That's on them. Kids automatically make a faulty assumption that if someone's not being nice to me, there must be something wrong with me. I must have done something wrong. And that's incorrect. So helping them understand their relationship to the situation. And, I'm a big fan because I was a sensitive child and I am a sensitive adult that, you have to be soft and strong. So, I wouldn't coddle a kid as much as say, hey, that did stink. I would validate what they're feeling. But, like, so what? Now what? What do we do next? You know what I mean? Because the point is you want to help a child develop some strength, and you need to have a little skin that lets things fall off their back. I mean, yeah, that was not so nice. That didn't feel good. What can you do now? What is your next best move?
Exactly. And what we just did with her is say, tell her how you feel and let it go. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's like you can't hold on to it. But we tell her not everyone is the same, right? Mm-hmm. People are going to do things that upset you as long as you don't do the things to other people that you wouldn't want done to you. That's how you have to live.
And I think the important piece for her that she may or may not have gotten in her mind is that you can't take life personally. Like, if someone else does something, it's not about you. Even though it feels about you, she took it from you, but it was her issue. So kids automatically take everything personally, but it's not always in their best interest.
Well, it's great tips, so thank you. Sure. So how do you teach mindfulness to young children? Where does a parent start? At toddlerhood, older? Is it something that just is naturally organic? What do you recommend?
Well, every parent and child is different, and everyone's starting at a different point in the path. So, that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, The Emotionally Healthy Child, because I have lots of strategies and tools in there. I have a whole chapter with mindfulness tools. So, and it is paying attention in a non-judgmental way. So whether it's mindful seeing on the way to school, let's find everything that's red and you play a game, or whether it's mindfully washing your car in the afternoon or mindfully shoveling the snow, whatever it may be, the whole idea of mindfulness or paying attention is to slow them down so they make better choices. Mindlessness or carelessness is when they're moving so quickly. We all know the child that runs into the room, hits the vase by accident, and drops and breaks. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's not. Yeah, so we want to slow them down to make better choices. So whether it's through, a mindful exercise before they go to sleep, and it's focusing on their heartbeat and staying calm and relaxing, or whether it's another mindful walking activity out in nature. There's lots of different strategies and ways to start. So I think it depends on your family and your proclivities and what you're interested in, but I list a lot of different ways in the book, and I do like the idea of making it fun, because mindfulness doesn't have to be, it sounds like a boring, dull activity, but it doesn't mean to be. I remember when I studied Buddhism, I was in my retreat center, and I was always given the mindful dishwashing. I would have to wash the dishes. So, for me, I learned that, whether it was a clean dish or a dirty dish, you can do everything with mindfulness. So, it doesn't have to be so routine or, disciplined. You can have fun with mindfulness. It can be, mindful playing Uno. You can play Uno with mindfulness. It doesn't need to be boring.
I love that. And you have a theme throughout the book of helping children, as you've been talking about, make smarter choices. And you have a tool called Smart Choices Checklist, which I would love for you to explain to our listeners.
Sure. So the idea is that a smart choice, like I mentioned earlier, is good for you and good for others. So for a child, it's, making a choice that is good for them and good for others. So, say a child is kind of in a pattern when they get home. I don't want to do my homework, and they start yelling and screaming. So I would work with my son or daughter and have them come up with a list. You work with them to come up with the list, but have them come up with a list. What could you do that will feel better in this moment when you have a big emotion? You can jump on the trampoline. You can read your favorite book. You can sit under your favorite tree. You can pet the dog. You can take a bath. What is it that helps you feel better so that they can release their emotions constructively? Maybe they do some exercise. Maybe they write in their journal. Depends on the child's age. But, maybe 3 to 5 things. And then you can do the list for school as well. If they have any challenges of having big emotions in the classroom. Do you talk to the teacher? Do you write in your book? Do you use a fidget cube? What is it that can help your emotions get out in a constructive way? And every classroom is different in what they allow. But the point is that you can hang this up in the child's room or put it on a folder where they have a private space. And that, say they're home and you can tell they're agitated after school for whatever reason. You can say, okay, go outside, jump on the trampoline. I'll set the timer for 10 minutes and you can come back in. And they literally just release that emotion, that excess energy, so that they can come in and they can be a little calmer so you can connect with them better. So, and also they don't have to let that emotion out sideways by teasing their sibling or screaming or saying something they would later regret.
I like it because it's empowering them. It's giving them tools that are going to work for them for the rest of their life of learning how to process the emotions.
Right. And you're not coming as an adult or parent or teacher, you're not coming up with it. You're not saying, I want you to do these 3 things. You're saying, hey, what do you think will work for you? Maybe it's deep breaths, maybe it's not. You're helping them come to the awareness that they have other choices.
And I love that because what may have worked for them on Monday when they got upset, they might want to do something different on Thursday when they got upset. So
totally.
It's given them the choice. And for me, it's about, it sounds like it's empowering them. It's giving them life skills that's going to be with them always. I'll be back in a moment with Maureen Healy of growinghappykids.com.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Do you feel overwhelmed and unsure about what steps to take to find peace, joy, and purpose in your life? Chris Groth is a spiritual mentor, energy healer, and best-selling author of the novel Soliloquy, a novel of healing, soul connection, and passion, and co-author of several best-selling books. Chris is passionate about helping women connect more deeply to their own truth, to promote healing, and restore balance to the body, heart, mind, and soul so they can live a soul-connected life. Chris serves clients around the world through spiritual mentoring sessions, energy healings, and powerful custom-guided sound healing meditations that bring in the energy of crystal singing bowls. If you're ready to heal your heart, nurture your soul, and illuminate your path, schedule a complimentary virtual session with Chris today at chrisgroth.com. That's Chris with a K and GROTH.com.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Are you ready to manifest the life of your dreams? Do you often wonder why it hasn't happened yet? When you are in alignment with your deepest desires, you have unlimited power to manifest more wealth, better health, and happiness. By using a unique formula and proven process to help you create higher levels of energy in the moment and long term, at the Wealth Attraction Academy, you'll discover the support you need to help you do just that. The Wealth Attraction Academy was founded by seven-figure business owner, international best-selling author, speaker, coach, and Aspire magazine expert columnist, Anne Sanfilippo. Anne's mission is to provide women like you with the tools and resources you need to manifest an abundant life of your dreams, financially, emotionally, and spiritually. Visit wealthattractionacademy.com to claim your free Attract Wealth, Health, and Happiness gift set and schedule a free discovery session today.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Maureen Healy. So you also run a mentoring program, right, to help emotional children develop skills, a healthy mindset. Tell us about that. I want to know more about what that is.
Sure. I work with parents and children all around the world, from the Middle East and Mexico and all around the U.S. and Canada, and a lot of people in the U.K. I work with. And the whole point is, I was like we talked about earlier, I was an emotionally sensitive child, and I'm still a sensitive adult. But if you learn certain skills of how to thrive as an emotional person, you can be both logical and emotional. You can be both, have a strong intellect and strong instincts. You don't have to have one or the other. So helping children build those skills and have a wider perspective and get some coaching, and as well as coaching the parents, is helpful, because it's really, from my perspective, no matter who you are, wherever you are in life, you want someone who's just a little farther down the line to help you. And if you can avoid some unnecessary bumps, that's good. And sometimes kids just need to release their emotions and get a little coaching and understand how life works. And, we all don't know what we don't know. So as a child, they're very young and new to the world, and some ideas and tools really help them not only learn how to control or master their emotions and release them constructively, but to make friends and to navigate tricky situations and screens and, things that are sort of heavy on their heart.
I can hear the passion in your voice, for the work that you're doing. And I just love it. And I'm actually looking at the photo of you that I assume was taken. It's a photo of you waving in the background. And was this the photo of you at the base of the Himalayas teaching kindergarten to the Tibetan refugee children? I can see them all there waving, and I'm like, but your passion and energy of getting this message across to all children, right? And empowering the parents, because I think it starts with us and the grandparents. I'm a grandparent now, so. Sure.
And I think, not everyone has the luxury. Like, I went and lived in India and sat on mats and did meditations and would wake up at 4 a.m. to ring bells. I mean, not everyone has that luxury nor wants to do that. So that's why I tried and put in the book, Emotionally Healthy Child, sort of shortcuts, like the Cliff Notes. What is it the thing that kids need to know, and what do they need to do to feel healthy and happier?
The Cliff Notes, I love that. It's like, send me some of those. So what do you have coming up now? I know you have a lot of book signings and events coming up. Anything you want to share with my listeners?
Sure. I mean, I'm always doing different things. In January, I have a free webinar through the Montessori Foundation that's probably going to be very helpful. If people want to tune into that, they can find more on my website, Growing Happy Kids. I also do a lot of talks at different schools throughout the U.S., so that could be helpful. And, I continue to work with parents and children. Like, today I'll be hightailing my butt to the office. So, I really do love what I do, and I love to connect with people. And on my website, just so that people know, on growinghappykids.com, you can sign up for my newsletter, and you either get you get a sample chapter of my book, so that might be interesting.
Yeah, and again, that's growinghappykids.com. What's a mindfulness ritual, that's my word, that we could start? Let's make believe the child's 7 to 10 years old, because I know it might be age specific. What do you feel led to share?
Sure. I mean, I guess the one thing that I think is always a starting point is your breath, because if you're alive on this planet, your breath is with you. And your children, when they're at school, your breath is invisible, so it's a tool that they can use. Nobody else needs to know they're doing it. So I think it's really helpful, whether you're taking air in your nose and blowing it out like you're blowing out a hot soup, blowing on hot soup. You do that at least 5 times in your nose, out your mouth, to blow on hot soup to cool down. Or whether you're taking a tool from my book, I have a thing called bubble breathing, or 5 for 5, where, your child's hand starts when it's closed, and they take a deep breath and they let it out, and they pop out a finger until their hand is open again. Every finger is popped out. And you do
I love that one, because that's interactive, and they actually feel like they're part of it. So I love that one. What's that one called? 5?
5 for 5. And they do it 3 times. And the idea is that it's good to have a physical anchor when you're teaching a child breathing, because it's invisible. It doesn't necessarily make sense, So, but when you have a physical anchor, like your hand or your finger, they feel it, they connect it to their fingers, their hands, they have a visceral memory. And it helps them realize that they're in control and that they can calm themselves. So I guess if I was going to give a suggestion, I would add calming breathing into my mix, whether it's 5 for 5, hot soup breath, bubble breathing, or even if they're laying in bed at night and they have a little stuffed animal in the room, they could put it on their tummy, and as they're relaxing, watch the little stuffed animal go up and down on their tummy. The idea is that they're beginning to see that they're in control, and through the breath they can calm themselves. Because we all know as adults that if you're not calm, things are not going to go great, And I know that living in California with traffic, I need to be very calm, So it's important.
And I notice you do a lot of blogging, and have been for a while, for Psychology Today, but you're also in many other places sharing your wisdom. And what is the part about writing that you love? Is it the teaching element?
It's a very good question. I mean, that's probably one of the things I love the most about being on the planet, is being able to do creative work. And I think a lot of my work is healing work and teaching. And with writing, I just, it's that ability to have a blank page and just let information come through you and be creative. When I went back to school for a PhD and we started writing papers, I never went to school to write. I just found that was something I loved to do. That was the part of the PhD program that I enjoyed the most, was the writing. So it was just something that sort of I fell in love with, that creative expression. And I think we all look for that, whether you're an amazing cheesecake maker, or you can decorate, or whatever your tools are. If we're creative and expressing ourselves, we feel some joy.
Well, you do it so well, I must say. And it's funny, because when you talk about the PhD program, I've had friends go, the worst part was having to write. And here you are saying, I love it. And they would be like, avoid it until 24 hours before, and because it was their block, right? And when I, was preparing for today, I was like, you're a prolific writer, and I see your teachings and your wisdom everywhere. And I'm like, I don't know, I just feel the passion for what you do, and I love connecting with people that are passionate about their work they're doing, especially when that work is transforming lives, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe, like, mothers, women are the nurturers of the next generation, so that's why I love having amazing guests like you on to bring this kind of information out there, so we can guide our children to be more emotionally healthy. So in our we have about 10 minutes to go. You gave us your unique background, but what led you to write that very first book, Growing Happy Kids? Was it just came through you? Was it something in your life? I usually ask that for that first book that someone writes. I'm like, what led to that?
Well, the book Growing Happy Kids was about inner confidence. Many call that it's similar, the concept is similar to the idea of grit, but it's the idea that within you have everything you need. Typically, we look on the outside world. We're confident when we get our hair done at the beauty salon, or if you're a child, you're confident when you kick the ball into the soccer goal. You win a goal. But can you be confident that, when you have challenges, that within you is what you need? So it's what I call inner confidence, and that's what they call in the Eastern world is inner confidence. And it lays the foundation for a healthier and happier life. If you don't have inner confidence, you can't overcome challenging emotions or challenging life experiences. And for me, that's the first step to having an emotionally healthy and happier life. So for me, for myself and for the people I work with, I saw how powerful the idea of inner confidence was, and I saw that people didn't really get it. That wasn't really a topic that was talked about in our Western world, and I wanted to bring that idea to the world because, to me, it's a game changer. If you believe that you have everything you need within you and you root that confidence in something deeper, well, then life works out easier. But if you're always looking for confidence in the outside world, you'll be very disappointed because things change, right? If you can only feel confident when you get an A+ in your spelling quiz, well, there's going to be a day where you don't get an A+. So you have to root your confidence in something more lasting.
It's so powerful, and it's so true because life is always going to come at us.
Right.
Right? And if we're always getting thrown off center, so it's almost like the inner confidence in connecting to it is helping them ground in their truth. So when the storms come, because they will, they're not thrown all over the place. They're rooted in their truth.
That's exactly right. Because if you're not rooted in something that's not visible, something that's lasting, something that's, like you said, wisdom or truth, then you're always looking to the outside world, which is constantly changing and will throw these storms at you that you have challenges and you're devastated. Well, that's not great. You know what I mean? It all happens to us, but we know so much more now that children's lives can be easier, so why don't we share that information sooner is sort of my perspective.
Exactly, but the same would go about inner confidence in an adult. I mean, it took me 40 years to get to the point where I wasn't like the weeping willow blowing all over the place every time something happened, right? I became the oak rooted in my truth of, okay, this is happening around me. It's not the truth of who I am.
Right, but I do love a weeping willow.
I got to say, we grew up with weeping willows in my yard, so I love them. Mm-hmm. But by teaching children, as you're doing, young, and teaching parents to give them these tools, they don't have to wake up at 40 years old, right?
Well, that was the whole point is, oftentimes everyone sort of had their bumpy path to power, right? We went one way because we thought we could make money. Our parents wanted to be this kind of person. We were trying to please them. And the point is that we can actually stand in our truth when we're younger, and we can learn how life works sooner so that we don't have that bumpy path to power.
Yeah, because if we can avoid the bumps, it would be nice, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, the unnecessary ones, there'll always be a few, and that's okay, too.
It is. It's how my belief is it's how we react to something, because it's always going to come, right? But we have control over one thing, our reaction to it, whether we give up our power, peace, and happiness to a situation or not. And, that's just been my path. And when you look at something, that moment when you go, wow, 10 years ago this would have set me, off on a whatever, downward spiral. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly you realize this is what it's about. It's okay that it's happening. It is what it is. But I can still remain peaceful. It doesn't mean I like it. It doesn't mean but don't give away my inner peace. I don't want to give away my inner peace, my power. That's been the most healing part of my journey over the last, 15 years.
Right. Yeah, me too. I mean, my car died a month and a half ago. I go, all right, well, this is what it is. Nothing I can do, get a new car. So, but in that moment, not being upset about it and just letting it be what it was, that's sort of a breakthrough moment, because I realized, I'm like, oh, like you said, 20 years ago, I would have been, really upset at this. But this is just another piece of life's experiences, that's all.
Yeah, and I like to say, for myself, I used to go into the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll use that as an example, like, oh my God, I don't want to replace my car right now, and no. And then we work ourselves up or I used to. And then I'm like 3 days later, like, exhausted. But then I said to myself, so Linda, the car broke down, using that as an example, 3 days ago. But the car being broken down didn't make you just tell a story and spiral down for 3 days. Your story did that to you. Right. That was a big healing lesson too. Doesn't mean that the moment I realized my lesson that it took, I had lots of homework given to me over the years.
Right. And also being able to flip the script. I have people surround me. They're like, it's time to upgrade the car. I said, yeah, I think this is just a message from the universe, time to upgrade the car. And I did, and now I have a new car, and I love it. So everything worked out. It was so much easier than I had imagined. You know what I mean? So just sort of going with the flow of the universe is so important.
Well, my favorite mantra, and all my team knows it, my clients know it, it's my day flows with ease and grace. Like flow, ease, and grace, it's how I set my intention for the day. That's like my mantra, so that I put out that intention. And if something comes in to my life, which it will, because that's life, right? I remember I have the choice to say in ease, grace, and flow despite what it is. And that's the things that I want to pass to my grandchildren. I have an 18-year-old grandson and the 7-year-old little one I told you about. And it was my grandson at 18 years ago that his arrival into my life, I said, I want to be the best role model I can be, and it made me start diving deeper into my own story so that I could model differently for him and now for the other grandchild. So to finalize our conversation, because I could keep going, especially about the highly sensitive stuff, I want to give you 2 URLs, just in case we did mention highly sensitive kids, and I don't want to leave them hanging because a lot of my audience may be interested in that too. Maureen's main website is growinghappykids.com. You can learn about her new book, The Emotionally Healthy Child, as well as her first book, Growing Happy Kids. But during this conversation today, Maureen also brought up, and I was like, I can't wait to get over there too. I've already been on your other site, so I'm like, I got to get over there. It's highlysensitivekids.com. So if that message connected with you, please be sure to visit, and you will find her content everywhere. And again, as she said, visit her website. So in the last few minutes, Maureen, is there a piece of wisdom, guidance, or a strategy that you want to leave for the parents, something that will help a parent help their child? You shared some great resources for the children. What would your guidance be to a parent of a child who may be struggling?
I think it's important to just focus on progress and not perfection. I think that we sometimes get hung up and we want things to be just so. But as long as we're making progress, and then progress isn't a straight line. Sometimes it's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps forward, but continuing to be, to the best of our ability, that stable, centered, calm person. Of course, we're not perfect either, but being able to do our best and focus on the progress, and also to realize that if a child has quote-unquote bad behavior, it just means they don't have the skills yet of emotional health, but that when they learn more, they can do better, and being as patient as possible and as calm as possible, and just focusing on the progress, I think, is really, really important, because when we're making progress, we can feel good.
Exactly, because if we're always aiming perfection, we're always going to feel like we're not measuring up. As a child, I can imagine that must be what it feels like if we're always held to that standard of perfection.
Right.
Do you feel like a lot of children in this world now and nowadays feel that desire to be perfect? Perfect grades, perfect hair, perfect. It's just so different from when I was a child.
I think it has to do a little bit with geography. Certain communities have a a little bit of a perfectionist tendency. And I also feel, or I know, that some children are born perfectionists. They have this thing in their mind that they will feel good when X, where they get a perfect grade or they win at the game, but they have to learn how to lose and to fall down and get back up again. That's part of emotional health. So helping kids, that's why I do a lot of emotional coaching, is because when kids know certain things, they do better. So helping them learn that it's, that's how we learn, is to make mistakes, and that's part of the process. And then we celebrate our mistakes, okay, well, I can do that differently next time, or I can try again, or maybe that's, not what I'm going to have a career path in, learning to grow from every experience. If you learn from every experience, it's not a failure. But, if you don't learn, that's a different story. But it doesn't mean you have to have a perfect scenario. But if you can say, okay, what can I learn from this? Then you can move on towards more progress.
Exactly. And that goes for adults too, right?
Totally.
It's progress, not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to thank you for being here today, for sharing your wisdom, but also for doing the work that you're doing in the world. It's making such an impact. I can't wait to read your newest book. I've read your first, and now, of course, I'm heading to find out about the other book you said you wrote about sensitive children. Mm-hmm. And I want to invite everyone again to visit growinghappykids.com to learn more about Maureen and her work. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Inspiration for a woman's soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Ladies, it's time to remove the veils of pain, shame, and self-doubt that are smothering your inner light and leave you feeling disconnected from the truth of who you are. You are a radiant, divine woman of strength, love, and wisdom who deserves to live a life of joy, love, and inner peace. Life and spiritual coach Mal Duane, who is often referred to as the champion for restoring women's self-worth, supports women in stepping out from behind the energetic veils that separate them from the truth of who they are. It is possible to move through your fears, break through limiting beliefs, and release the shackles of shame and self-judgment. And you don't have to do it alone. Take the first step in reclaiming your life by visiting malduanecoach.com for empowering resources and supportive services.
Hey, America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, and soulful living.